good morning. Hello, everybody. I have a treat for you today. Oh my goodness, I have the beautiful Lindsey Clark, who is an amazing sleep specialist. She's a sleep coach who coaches. And in fact, I'm going to let you tell us, Lindsey.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you obviously to everyone who's here watching. So my name's Lindsey Clark, and basically I'm a sleep consultant, but I specialise in working with neurodivergent children and children with high anxiety as well. So that's where my kind of specialism lies, and I've been doing this for about 5 years. So before that, I was a teacher, kind of retrained after having my own kids who didn't sleep very well. So I think that's a story with a lot of sleep consultants and why they go into it. So I've been in the trenches of sleep deprivation myself, and yeah, it's hard, it's tough. That's a little bit about me.
It really, really is. And I always value people's expertise, rightly or wrongly. I always value it a little bit more when they've got life experience. When you've actually experienced the thing yourself, you're more mentoring someone, aren't you? You're actually able to get into their shoes and go, oh my God, I have been there. I know what that feels like to be sat there at 2 o'clock in the morning, like with eyes that feel like they're full of sand. It to be able to say I've been there, I understand you, is it's huge. And I think especially in the neurodiverse community, where I can't tell you, if I had £1 for every family that told me they feel not understood,
Yeah.
I'd be really, really rich. I'd be living in the Bahamas somewhere.
I totally know what you mean. Because like the thing is, there's the like traditional sleep advice that works for many children, but when you've got an autistic child or a neurodivergent child, all that stuff you are taught about sleep probably is not going to work. A bit like all the stuff we're taught about parenting. Like I've got 2 children myself. My oldest daughter is 7. She's autistic. My partner is autistic. Not sure about my youngest at the moment, but we'll get to him. But he, I sleep trained her when she was young, and that was fine for a while. But some of the challenges we faced since then, when she was young, I mean by like months old, under a year, some of the challenges we faced since then, like all the stuff you're like sort of traditionally told to do, like parenting wise, sleep wise, just does not work with her. And I've had to like learn on that journey myself. Obviously, I had some background in autism from teaching. I used to be a deputy head teacher, but it's just completely different. Like you've got to really think outside the box. And a lot of the parents I support, they come to me saying, we're doing all the stuff that you're like supposed to do, and it's just getting worse, or it's just not working. And it's, if the child is neurodivergent, that will be why. And there needs to be like a different approach. And I've gone through various things with my daughter. And until you've, like you've said, experienced that firsthand and know, actually, sometimes things like the rewards and consequences, stuff like that, just does not work at all. And it's having those other tools that do work and knowing what to do, like really is key. And like that's part of, the side of my job where I am working with the neurodivergent children. It is really unique to them and like the family situation and their sensory needs and all those things. So I really like the like thinking outside the box, the uniqueness of it, and getting stuff sorted for them. But I think if I hadn't had that experience myself, my brain would revert back to like what we should be doing.
Yeah, and on that point, actually, people who offer the advice who don't have experience, who have generic experience, it's so 99% of the time it's so well-meaning.
Yeah.
Everybody really genuinely means well, but doesn't necessarily understand, and that's where the gap lies. And I think in a traditional sense, this is where the fitting round pegs into square holes comes in, or other way around, and all of that type of stuff. And this is when you get the frustration starts to creep in, and I see this all the time with my coaching, because no two families are ever the same. So there's no kind of cookie cutter approach that will work. And like can't tell you how much time I've spent trying to create a program for ND families to be able to like cope with life better, and I get so far and I go, oh, this is not going to work, because every family is different. Everything has to be completely bespoke from the get-go.
Yeah.
The first thing is like trying to understand the families, isn't it? And they get to a point where it's almost like an embarrassment. Why can't I do this? Why can't I
I
help
definitely
my
felt
to
like
sleep? I should be able to do this myself. And there's that sort of like worriedness about asking for help, because people can feel like they're doing something wrong.
that.
It's just not like that at all, is it?
Or I get families that approach me and they're worried that I'm just going to tell them to make the room dark, put some white noise on, put them in their bed. It's just not going to, none of that's going to make a difference. It's okay, optimizing the sleep environment for like a young baby, we want to do that. But when the problems are more complex, and with neurodiverse children, the problems are more complex because their brain works in a different way, and that affects sleep. It can stop them from switching off, and that's what we need to address. It's not just that they're being like naughty, they don't want to go to sleep. It's actually that they can't switch off, and that's what they need help with, and the tools to do that as they get older and more independent as well. But what you were saying a minute ago as well, actually, about the well-meaning advice, I still get that from like grandparents and like the older generation who don't maybe have the awareness and the the knowledge that they're well-meaning in stuff they tell me to do, but actually it does get my back up a little bit because I think you don't really know what you're
And I think it's so parenting has changed a lot, and actually the parents who take a more whole person approach to the way that they bring up their kids do tend to then bring up more well-rounded children now, because there's a lot in life that is led by our kids rather than led by us, that the whole world of social media and things like that is their world, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm dreading my children getting to that age where they're all that and looking at it. Like mine already say, because obviously on my Instagram page, sometimes I'll put videos of them up, and I don't ever put anything of their their current age sort of thing. And I say to them, I don't want your faces in it, things like that. They're like, why? They're like, they want to be on there, and I'm like, no, like you don't. They're only young, but like, I don't like. I dread to think.
Even when I worked in the community, I would see a lot, and just stepping back a little bit, not necessarily to do with neurodivergence specifically, but the effect on sleep by social media addiction for children like teenagers especially is so prevalent now.
Yeah.
Like it can be 3 o'clock in the morning and they don't even know it's 3 o'clock in the morning because they're just so absorbed in what it is that they're doing.
Yeah, it's that endless scroll, isn't it? That's the problem. And then
And
when
for
you're
them, like that like seriously affects their mental health.
yeah.
But then they feel like if they don't, then they're missing something that is then going to make them socially acceptable. It's hard.
Yeah, really hard balance. Like I said, I'm not at that stage yet, but I'm kind of dreading it a little bit.
Definitely. So what would you say is when families come to you, families of neuro or even neurodivergent parents, like because obviously if they have their struggles as well, that makes it even more difficult. What would you say is the biggest challenge that families feel when they come to you? Is it getting their children to go to sleep? Is it getting their children to stay asleep? Because they're two completely different things.
Yeah, it is. There's often a combination of both, to be honest. It's normally either falling asleep like really, really late, or waking up in the night for hours, or like waking up in the night and actually not even going back to sleep. So sometimes some of the most extreme cases I've worked with are children waking up at sort of 1:30, 2 a.m. and that's when they start the day. And obviously that has a massive impact on parents, because I've had parents who are having to take turns at going to sleep at sort of 7 p.m. because somebody's got to be up from 2, because the child obviously can't be unsupervised. I generally work with kind of sort of primary school age children. That's kind of areas, so sort of up to age 11. So, you know, they can't be left to their own devices in the middle of the night, or, you know, 2 a.m. in the morning. So that's a massive impact on the family. That's no alone time at all. Like, you know, as parents, you do need a bit of downtime, don't you, in the evening? It's important for most parents to have a couple of hours or something without children there. And that means you get no time together as well. So it's like, it has a massive impact on the family, like having to take turns doing that. Especially if you've got the kind of job where you've got to do work in the evening, like it's just completely throws off everything, doesn't it? And for the child too, who's obviously not getting the sleep that they need, then has an impact on their day. You know, if they attend school, that's going to be really difficult. They're going to be irritable. They're going to be probably quite cranky, like anyone would be on poor sleep. And it's just really challenging. Or then they wake up in the night, and then they're up for like 4 hours in the middle of the night, and then we'll fall back to sleep. And parents are like, do I let them lay in? Do I not? Like, the sleep pattern is just all over the place.
I've seen that a lot actually when I worked in the community of children that were struggling then to come to school in the morning because of the sleep deprivation, which is not obviously completely non-intentional.
Yeah.
So they will be falling back asleep at like 6:30, 7 in the morning when they should be getting up. And then it's the difficulty of trying to then get a child to school. So we're rolling on to like the effects that it has on different areas of life, because it doesn't just stop at 7 o'clock in the morning when it's then should be normal wake up time. It's then the effect that has on the rest of the day,
Yeah.
and not just the child's day, like you said, it's the parents' day. And you know, if you've had been up since 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, your productivity is going to be absolutely pants, isn't
Yeah.
it? So it
I
affects people's working life. And
It really does. I've worked with families where parents have had to give up work because they can't do it, and that's, you know, awful, isn't it? I worked with a mum she was a single mum as well, and her son was only like 3, and she was a dental nurse, and she had to stop working because she couldn't do, like, obviously he had quite a lot of different needs as well, but the sleep was one of the main reasons why. She was like, I couldn't turn up for late for work again, or I can't be using dental tools and I'm sleep deprived. So yeah, that's just, you know, completely like life changing. Obviously, we did get her little one sleeping well, so hopefully she's been able to, if she wants to, obviously go back to work. But yeah, just, you know, just so challenging. And I've worked with children as well who like will sleep randomly in like 4-hour blocks, but like at really random times, like maybe like 3 times a day, rather than it being like condensed into the night. And, you know, part of that is to do with like the circadian rhythm, the body clock being different in neurodivergent children, but we can certainly get it so it's like the sleep is kind of more condensed in, you know, at night, so that it's more kind of socially acceptable, because it's really difficult for anybody to function like that.
do you find that people are kind of at their breaking point when they come to you? Are they at that point where they're going, I really can't take this anymore? Or do you find people come to you before they hit that?
It varies. Sometimes people are like, oh my goodness, like, I'm so glad I found you. Like, they'll find me on Instagram or something and see that I've got 2 different pages, as you know,
Yeah.
the kind of the neurotypical kind of sleep advice, and I've got a separate autism and anxiety page where the advice is different. That's why I've got the 2 different pages, and people often find me on there and like, oh, it's so refreshing to hear you say some of the things you say on that page, because I've never heard anyone say it before. And they're just so relieved that straight away they just are like, just help me, please. They may have already worked with a sleep consultant and be given that kind of traditional advice, and it either hasn't had any impact or has worked for like a little while and then things have gone back again. So yeah, they'll often come to me then. Or sometimes it's when a child has just been diagnosed and maybe they've always had kind of issues, and suddenly it's like, we want to get this nipped in the bud. So I get a lot of kind of like 3-year-olds, like around that age, where people are often starting to see traits then, or nursery might pick up on something and they say, oh, we've always known things are a little bit difficult. So sleep issues can often, like in autistic children in particular, often it's not till they reach sort of 3 or 4. They can be like a pretty good sleeper until then, and often it's around
I
that
hear
age.
that all the time, actually. I hear parents do say, like, they were fine until they were ready to, or just about to start school, or they were, they slept like a dream when they were tiny. But yeah, no, I've heard that quite a bit.
That age barrier again, like in the summer before children start school, I normally get quite a lot of inquiries then, because people are thinking, oh gosh, like I want to sort it out basically before they start school.
Yeah, I presume that's down to the age. I presume that's down to brain development then, because you've got significant brain stages, haven't you? And one of them is sort of 4 years oldish, isn't it? So I
Yeah,
presume a lot of it's down to that.
yeah, I think the studies were that sleep issues tend to start around 36 months. So yeah.
Tell us about a success story that gets you in the feels.
Oh gosh, let's have a think about one. I did have this little boy. He was 7 actually, and he just started junior school, and sleep had kind of gone a bit kind of downhill after starting junior school. There's a lot of kind of anxiety involved, which often there is. And he was waking up. He was going to sleep quite late, but then he was waking up in the night for quite long periods, sometimes again in the early hours of the night at 4 o'clock, and not resettling, but particularly on like certain days. And part of my job is obviously to dig down and find out like why that's happening. And we did kind of get to the root cause. It was certain things were happening at school on those days. Dad was sleeping in with him. This was probably about a year ago. Dad was sleeping in the bedroom with him as well at bedtime. So they wanted to kind of stop that, reduce that anxiety down, and like hopefully get him sleeping through. He'd wake up in the night and panic, which is, again, it's something that I see that's quite common. And kind of didn't know what to do. So we kind of got to the root cause, and it does take some digging. The work that I do, you do have to work out kind of all the bits of the jigsaw, put them together, work out what's going on. But we managed to work out some of the things that were causing his anxiety, put everything in place. And yeah, we ended up getting that, solid night's sleep quite quickly, really, in about 2 weeks. But normally it can take a couple of months, you see, to get it all figured out. And that was particularly kind of quick one. But yeah, he started going to sleep earlier, sleeping through, wasn't waking early anymore. There was no panicking. So that's one that, yeah, like I really kind of enjoyed working with that one. He was sharing a room with his sister as well. So we had to kind of bear that in mind too. So there's quite a few elements. But yeah, it was just really great it's really great with any child when they haven't ever slept through, because that is the case with a lot of children I work with, like they've never slept through the night before. So when you hear, again, all this traditional sleep advice about, oh, they all sleep through when they're ready, everyone sleeps through eventually, like I don't want to be that person going, no, they don't, but actually some don't. So it's to say that to a parent who's sleep deprived, like, oh, they will eventually, makes them feel like they've got to just wait. You have to just wait.
Really? For how long can you go without a night's sleep?
I've literally worked with 8-year-olds who have never slept through the night before. Yeah.
I can't imagine how that must feel. And especially if you're a parent who needs the sleep.
Yeah.
Like, I had a really bad spell of illness when my 11-year-old was really young, and since then, like I absolutely have to have the uninterrupted sleep, and if I don't get a good minimum 6 hours,
Oh yeah.
I really genuinely really feel it, and that's just off one night.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm hideous. If I haven't had sleep, I actually can't. I almost feel like hungover. Do you know, like
It's awful, isn't it?
the amount of sleep, I've got a headache, and I'm like, oh, and I'm irritable. And
I
the other
always
one night,
Yeah, when I worked in education, you'd see parents who clearly had not had a good night's sleep.
Mm.
Um, but then there's for some parents, there's the worry of about the way other parents look at them. It's about the way they're looked at by the education system if they can't get their child into school on time, and there's that constant pressure upon them to be normal, and then so then they feel bad. And you'd
Yeah,
have then someone like 10 and up, they're clearly just completely exhausted emotionally and mentally. And it's well, have you tried this? And that's where my
yeah,
my
it
mind just goes,
does.
oh no, just don't do that. Just don't do that. If anything, say to that person, do you know what? Do you want a cup of tea? Do you want to
Yeah.
come and have a sit down and have a cup of tea and a biscuit?
But
And you see them literally go, oh,
yeah. We had this exact scenario last week, and luckily it wasn't me that had to deal with it, it was my partner. So my daughter is like PDA, as well. The
yeah,
demand avoidance is there massively. So we get excuses not to do anything we ask her to do, basically. I'm sure
yeah.
lots of parents can probably relate to that. So getting ready for school in the morning, she can be very dysregulated, very hyper, silly. Her brother then copies. But so getting out the door in the morning is not always easy. And this morning, it was last week, they were almost late for school because she had decided, when it was time to get shoes on, I just need to go upstairs and get something. Oh, now I need the toilet. She's making all these excuses just to not go out the door. So anyway, they were almost late. Head teacher is there closing the gate as they got there. And her suggestion was, maybe you could put a timer on for her in the morning. I know. I was like, it's head teacher. I thought, oh.
Do you know, this is a typical example of why I started my business, because having worked in the education sector and worked in under the borough council social care kind of area as well, there is so many gaps of understanding. And even though everybody is trying really hard, there is so many gaps of support. It is absolutely crazy. And these poor parents that are basically living at capacity before any of these extra challenges happen. Just, it's, I feel coming from them, it's like there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Nobody can help me properly. And you have to, if you want help from something, it's a referral, and the referral waitlist can be up to 3 years for some things, and
Yeah.
everything is separate. So you've got, a referral for this, and then you might need an OT referral, and then you might need a speech and language referral, and it's just referral, wait. And in the meantime, you've got these poor people that are absolutely losing their minds. Who takes care of them then? Who takes care of them in that phase, when everything is really hard?
I
Like,
know.
there's just a massive gap. And I can remember whilst I loved all of the jobs that I did, I can remember thinking when I worked in schools, it was, but those kids go home at 3:10 and I can't help them.
Mm,
I have this finite window that I can help the children and only help the parents to a certain degree. And then when I worked in the community, it was, I'd only be able to spend so much time with them. And then that came with tons of paperwork and all of those things. And that just got me really frustrated, because working within frameworks that these people just don't fit in,
mm,
and that's why I did what I did and created my business, to be able to bring specialists together and for people to actually be able to ask the questions they really need to ask,
I
without
know.
someone going, oh, I don't know the answer to that, and going away and finding out, you know what, that's great, that's fine. But to come back and go, oh, well, we'll make a referral for you. And it's like,
Mm,
oh my God, really?
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Another one?
It is definitely frustrating. It is.
Poor people.
I know.
So I could, on your link there, I can see that you've got your autism and anxiety sleep coach. For anyone who watches this, actually, that is doesn't have a neurodiverse element to it, I'm just going to pop up your other account.
Yeah, so my business is called Peaceful Sleep Secrets, but I have that extra kind of Instagram page, the Autism and Anxiety Sleep Coach. So there is both. And on my website as well, there's like an area, there's kind of like a separate area you can go to for the kind of autism focused support. So yeah, I've got kind of both of those going on. A little bit confusing, I know, but there was no other easier way to do it, really.
Absolutely, and it has to be separate, doesn't it? Because one
Yeah,
size doesn't fit all, and that's what, going back to where we were talking at the very beginning, there is no way to make
yeah,
those two work together. Absolutely. I
yeah,
know, obviously, we've spoken before and hope to do a bit of work together in the future around supporting
yeah,
families and making sure that everybody gets what they need. So the conversation flows. I don't tend to answer questions as we go because,
yeah.
I promise that anybody that does make a comment or ask a question, 100% will come back to you. If anyone needs to ask anything that needs to be directed to the beautiful Lindsey, I will absolutely make sure that happens. Is there anything else you wanted to? Have you got anything coming up that you wanted to talk about, Lindsey? Or
I haven't got anything specific at the moment. I'm doing a workshop for professionals in a couple of weeks. So I don't know if you do have any professionals that kind of, you work with or that be watching this, but I
absolutely.
basically train other professionals as well as working with families and children. I train other professionals to specialize in this area because there are so few people that specialize in helping autistic children with sleep. There is literally a handful of us worldwide. And with, diagnosis rates growing, it is something that people are realizing actually there is different support out there. Families are starting to look for it more, I think. Whereas before it was like, we can't be helped. Nothing works. Whereas obviously there's been more research and more development. Like the strategies I use, like I said, are kind of up and coming, really, and people are finding out more about them. So I have a lot of professionals that I train, basically, obviously other sleep consultants who want to work in this area, but also people like OT, speech and language therapists, teachers, who want to already work with neurodivergent children, and the families are complaining about, we're not getting any sleep, we need help. A lot of them are thinking, I could help them if I just had the knowledge.
If every single school had a member of the pastoral team that did something like this, that could really, really help
Yeah,
getting children into school.
yeah.
If school is accessible to them,
Yeah, you don't need to be a sleep consultant, like a qualified sleep consultant, to have this knowledge. These tools, the certification that I do basically there's enough in there, it's comprehensive enough that you would be able to pick it up and advise those families.
And
So
exactly, because you've identified a gap. You've
yeah,
identified a gap there that, yes, you can work with, but there's only so many families you can work with at any one time. Like, wouldn't it be great if there was other people out there that could do the same as you, and identifying that gap and filling that gap? And that's what
yeah.
it's all about, isn't it?
Especially if you're in first-hand contact with those families. I have trained people, a couple of ladies in Australia, and they said there are nobody specialises in Australia in this. So we've got the first two now, and they're obviously both doing so well because one's an OT and one's a sleep consultant, because they're the go-to people in their area now. So
is that, if somebody's interested in doing that with you, is that on your website? Have you got?
Yeah, it is. If you go into there's a specific bit on the menu for autism and anxiety, and then it says like parents or professionals. So you can go in there, have a look at it. Or again, like anybody who wants, has any questions or anything, parents or professionals, like you can contact me on Instagram or, put me a DM if you've got any questions about it.
Fabulous. Well, I'm sure that's going to be really helpful for many, many, many people. I was thinking about this over the weekend, going, "Oh my goodness, I could probably exhaust all my fingers, toes, and eyelashes for the amount of people that I personally know who need this." So I can't thank you enough for coming on. You know,
No
it's
problem.
absolutely amazing, and I really appreciate your time because I know your schedule is busy.
Yeah, yeah, we were just saying beforehand, weren't we? Like that we're like, "Ugh, too much to do, not enough time." When you're trying to do it in school hours as well, you say, "My, I want to be there for my kids too." It's
Absolutely. And we've got the dreaded summer holidays coming up as well. And a lot of people will associate with the why I have said the dreaded summer holidays.
oh yeah, when my daughter is out of routine, it can be hideous. So yeah, I don't know what will happen this year. We'll
We
survive.
could spend another half an hour just talking about that, couldn't we? What happens in the summer holidays?
Yeah,
But if you want more support and stuff during the summer holidays, that's where I can come in because my neurodiversity support hub launches on the 1st of July. That part of it is a completely free resource in which there'll be opportunities to ask questions, get support around various different things. And later on in the year, we are launching a membership, which means you can get access to more specialist support. Anyone who's interested in registering for that, just pop a comment, me in the comments, or pop me a DM or something, and we'll get you sorted for the waiting list for the 1st of July. But thank you so much, Lindsay. I hope you have a wonderful day.
yeah, and you. Thank you for having me.
And I will speak to you very soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.